The film begins in the year 1909, showing a group of people from an indigenous tribe dancing together in a lively celebration. Among them is a young boy named Willie Boy, who dances with energy and spirit. Watching him from a distance is a girl named Charlotte, who is immediately drawn to him. As they exchange glances, a spark of love forms between them. After the celebration ends, the two sneak away to spend some time together. They sit alone, talk about their feelings, and come closer. The next morning, the scene shifts to a beautiful hilltop where Willie and Charlotte wake up together. They are from different villages, but their love is undeniable. Charlotte expresses her desire to stay with Willie for the rest of her life, but their moment of peace is short-lived. Suddenly, some people from Charlotte's village find them together. They take Charlotte away from Willie and bring her back to her father, Chank. Chank is furious when he sees Charlotte. He shouts at her and firmly declares that he will never allow her to marry Willie. Chank's anger doesn't stop there. He sends some of the villagers to threaten Willie. Meanwhile, at home, Charlotte's mother, Kat, tries to talk to her. Kat tells Charlotte that she needs to forget about Willie and move on. She explains that such love stories often fade away with time. However, Charlotte is heartbroken and refuses to listen. Angry and upset, she storms out of the house. Chank, still furious, tells Kat that Charlotte must forget Willie. Kat reassures him that their daughter will slowly forget everything, and they should focus on taking her back to their village. Reluctantly, Chank agrees. The tension between their traditions and Charlotte's feelings grows heavier, creating an emotional divide within the family. Later, Charlotte meets a girl named Elizabeth, who comes from a wealthy family. The two cross paths, but Charlotte is still deeply troubled by the events in her life. As Charlotte walks away, her emotions remain conflicted. Her love for Willie and the pressures from her family pull her in different directions. Elizabeth gives Charlotte a book to read, and the two of them spend some time together. Meanwhile, Charlotte's father, Chank, arrives at the village to celebrate a festival with his family, including Charlotte. After the festival, Chank takes his family back to their village. From a hill nearby, Willie Boy watches them leave, feeling sad and lost without Charlotte. Time passes, but neither Charlotte nor Willie can focus on their daily lives. Willie often thinks about Charlotte, and his mind is distracted. On the other side, Charlotte struggles as well. One day, while working, she hurts herself, and Chank helps her by bandaging her wound. Despite her father's care, Charlotte remains restless and unhappy. One night, Charlotte decides she can no longer stay in her home. She packs a few things and sneaks out to run away. However, Chank catches her before she can get far. He confronts her and tells her to do whatever she's thinking of doing. Instead of stopping her, he lets her go. Charlotte runs into the night, determined to leave her old life behind. At the same time, Willie sets out from his house, heading toward Charlotte's village. On his way, he meets Chank, who is searching for Charlotte. Chank confronts Willie and threatens him. Things quickly get out of control, and in a panic, Willie accidentally shoots Chank, killing him. Charlotte sees what has happened and is heartbroken. Moments later, Kat, Charlotte's mother, arrives. She sees Chank's lifeless body and understands what has happened. Instead of blaming Willie, Kat tells both Charlotte and Willie to run away before the villagers find out. The young couple runs off into the night, knowing they have no choice but to escape. Willie and Charlotte start a long, difficult journey, moving further into the desert to get as far away as possible. Charlotte is deeply sad and struggles with her emotions. Willie tries to comfort her as they continue walking. Meanwhile, back in the village, Kat is visited by a nobleman. He tells her that Chank was killed by Willie and advises her to report this to Sheriff Wilson. Kat agrees, and the nobleman goes to inform the sheriff. Sheriff Wilson, who is still grieving the death of his wife, listens as the nobleman explains the situation. Wilson knows that President Taft will be visiting the area soon, and he wants to handle the matter quickly to avoid trouble. He organizes a search team to find Willie and Charlotte. At the same time, Chank's tribe holds a prayer ceremony in his memory. They mourn their loss and honor his life. During the ceremony, John Hides, a respected warrior from the tribe, arrives with his team to pay respects. Big Jim, one of John's men, suggests that Kat should have informed them earlier, if she had. Willie would already have been dealt with. John asks Kat where the young couple might have gone. Kat admits that Charlotte and Willie have likely traveled far by now. Hearing this, John and his team prepare for a long hunt. The next morning, John hides, Big Jim, and the tribal warriors set out to track Willie and Charlotte. They are determined to avenge Chank's death. At the same time, Sheriff Wilson and his deputies also begin their pursuit. Both groups follow the trail left by the couple, heading into the desert. Charlotte and Willie, now deep in the desert, struggle to survive. The harsh conditions and the constant fear of being caught make their journey even harder. Their love is tested as they face hunger, thirst, and exhaustion. They know that both the sheriff's men and the tribal warriors are closing in on them. It becomes a desperate race for survival as danger grows closer with each passing moment. This sequence continues for several days as Sheriff Wilson's team and John's team continue their pursuit of Willie Boy, Will, and Charlotte. One day, both teams finally meet up, and Wilson reveals that they've found evidence that Willie and Charlotte are still ahead of them. However, their horses are exhausted and need rest. John suggests that the task of tracking them down should be left to his team. Wilson doesn't like this idea and insists that they should work together to catch them. After a brief rest, the teams move forward slowly. Along the way, Wilson's group comes across Randolph, a man who has killed a member of the Indian tribe. Wilson tells him that he must answer for his actions. Randolph tries to justify himself by explaining how the Indian tribe takes revenge when one of their own is killed, and he insists that he wants to share this story with everyone. He claims that he will reveal the truth to the public. Later, a man talks to Wilson about Randolph's plan to share the news, and Wilson agrees that he will handle the situation the next day. With this settled, the groups continue moving forward, while Willie and Charlotte are still making their way through the wilderness. After several days of travel, Willie and Charlotte stop to rest, and they read a book together. While they are resting, Charlotte is bitten by a snake. Willie decides to find a place nearby where they can rest and treat her wound. After reaching a safe spot, Willie tends to Charlotte's injury. She feels weak and strange, but remains calm. They spend the entire day at the camp. As time goes on, Charlotte's wound worsens, and she tells Willie that she needs medicine. Willie kisses her and promises to bring her the medicine from his village. He asks her to stay behind and wait for him while he makes the journey. Charlotte, now wearing Willie's jacket for warmth, sits down and reads a book that Elizabeth had given her. Willie leaves in search of the medicine, traveling for several days. Eventually, he arrives outside Elizabeth's house, where she sees him and recognizes him. Elizabeth asks about Charlotte, and Willie explains that she needs medicine. Elizabeth asks her maid to prepare the medicine, and Willie is relieved. Meanwhile, Charlotte is preparing her own food when she hears someone approaching. It is John Hides. He listens carefully and then realizes he has found Willie. He quietly aims his rifle from a distance and shoots. However, the bullet does not hit Willie. It strikes Charlotte, who is wearing Willie's jacket. John approaches, shocked and saddened by what has happened. Soon, Sheriff Wilson arrives, also distressed to see Charlotte hurt. The rest of the group arrives, ready to kill Willie, but they are now hesitant because of what has happened to Charlotte. Willie, thinking they've captured her, fires a shot at the group. He manages to injure one man, the others return fire, but Willie escapes running through the desert. Sheriff Wilson approaches and hears Willie's heartbreaking confession that Charlotte is dead. Overcome with grief, Willie considers taking his own life, but he cannot go through with it. A man approaches Willie and realizes what he is about to do. He feels pity for him and decides not to kill him. Instead, he leaves, telling Sheriff Wilson that Willie has escaped. The group moves on, carrying the injured man to a nearby hospital in the village. At the hospital, the man expresses anger, suggesting they should have killed Willie on the spot. Wilson refuses, and the man tells him that he has let go of his grief over his wife's death. One of the men hands Wilson a picture of his late wife, and he takes it as a sign to move forward. Meanwhile, Randolph arrives at a location where Big Jim and the others are discussing how they must continue the search for Willie. They are determined to find him and end this pursuit. Wilson agrees with their plan, and soon, Big Jim and the others prepare for the next step in the hunt. They go through the wilderness, still searching for Willie. Over time, it becomes clear that Wilson has begun to heal from the loss of his wife. He is ready to move on from the past. The search for Willie continues as both teams press on, determined to find him. Finally, we are told about the aftermath of the Willie Boy Will incident in 1909. Willie and Charlotte traveled 600 miles over 26 days, and this manhunt became one of the biggest in history. In the end, no one knows exactly what happened to Willie Boy Will after that, but the legend of his escape lives on. The film concludes with Randolph reflecting on the journey, and we are left with a sense of closure for the characters involved in this dramatic and tragic chase.